Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to read some spooky articles out of History magazine because Halloween is coming. I've got the ghosties on. They glow in the dark, but I can't get the camera to pick it up, so just imagine that they're glowing, okay? So I picked out, well actually I didn't pick out, but I have for you tonight some spooky articles about monsters to read to you. My channel members actually picked these articles for you guys. These articles were chosen by Vectas, Alex, Luna, Sophia, Lucas F, Krista, and Victoria. Thank you to my channel members for picking these. And if you want to pick a History magazine article, you can click the join button just down there or the first link in the description box. I just posted a new list to choose from. So if you want to join, now's the time to go pick an article. You can still do that because I haven't filmed any of the new list of articles yet. So you can hop in right now and pick a History magazine article for the next batch of History magazine article videos, the last batch of the year. How exciting is that? Only 2 more months in the year. Can you believe that? But let's get to reading the articles, and we're going to start with the Loch Ness monster. What an icon. How a myth is born. Loch Ness monster. There are few eerie legends that survive the centuries to haunt the next generation, but one such creature's strange tale has persisted over a millennium. On May 2nd, 1933, an unattributed article appeared in a Scottish local newspaper, the Inverness Courier. It carried the eyewitness account of a married couple who claimed they had spotted a large creature in the waters of Loch Ness. According to the report, the creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. In the Scottish Highlands, Loch Ness is a 22.5-mile long lake, nearly 2 miles across at its widest point, and its murky waters can reach a depth of 788 feet. According to the article, it had for centuries been credited with being the home of a fearsome-looking monster. The report hinted that what the couple had seen might be the creature that had inspired stories of the mythical water kelpie or shape-shifting water horse of Celtic legend. Make sure you can see the whole article there. There we go. This legend dates as far back as over 1,400 years ago. 3 months after the couple's sighting, the same newspaper published a letter from a Londoner named George Spicer, who claimed that while driving with his wife around Loch Ness, he'd seen a strange creature cross the road in front of him. I saw the nearest approach to a dragon or prehistoric animal that I had ever seen in my life, he wrote. It crossed my road about 50 yards ahead and appeared to be carrying a small lamb or animal of some kind. The author of the first report was Alex Campbell, a freelance correspondent based in a village on the shores of Loch Ness. The couple who made the sighting were Aldi Mackey, manager of the local Dunadroshit Hotel, and her husband. In the weeks following the article's publication, Campbell wrote more stories on the subject for the Scottish media. Some argued the parties stood to benefit from either journalistic acclaim or tourism. In one article, Campbell stated, Many people in the area now think that the monster is indeed a prehistoric creature, and he announced with confidence, "It is certain to be seen again." Perhaps all this would have remained local gossip had it not been for the response of the Scottish media. Catching wind of the strange story, the national newspaper, The Scotsman, sent journalist Philip Stalker to Loch Ness in October 1933. Stalker filed a report that included an eyewitness account from Alex Campbell, who claimed that although he hadn't believed in the monster at first, he'd later seen a long-necked creature for himself. Campbell would emerge as a key witness, eventually claiming to have seen the creature on 18 occasions, sometimes at close range. He was, in a sense, the man who invented the monster. I can't quite see my viewfinder. There we go. Sea serpent. Stalker published his research in 2 reports in The Scotsman. He concluded that Loch Ness was inhabited by a large sea serpent that must have come up the River Ness from the sea. Since the 18th century, hundreds of seafarers claimed to have seen large sea monsters or serpents, and following over 100 paleontological discoveries in the 19th century, some naturalists began to imagine that these sea serpents alleged to be inhabiting the ocean depths might be plesiosaurs, large, long-necked marine reptiles that lived in the Mesozoic era, between 252 and 66 million years ago. In 1930, this theory gained new currency with the publication of a book about prior sightings called The Case for the Sea Serpent. Its author, Marine Commander Rupert Gould, went to Loch Ness in late 1933 to conduct new research in person based on the latest sightings. He concluded that the Loch Ness creature was a species of great sea serpent that had adapted to fresh water. Gould attributed the sinewy shape of a plesiosaur to the monster, an image that remains to this day. By fall 1933, the wider British press picked up on the Loch Ness mystery. Within weeks, the news became international, offering a bit of levity amid the financial hardship of the Great Depression. Visitors began arriving at the lake, which soon became a regular tourist destination. In December, a correspondent of the Spanish newspaper La Vanguardia reported that thousands of tourists had taken advantage of their Christmas vacations to camp on the shores of the loch, hoping that the unknown monster would appear on the surface of the waters. The legendary photo. What would end up turbocharging the idea of the Loch Ness monster, or Nessie as it was later named, was a photo the most important in the history of monsters. I don't know, the Bigfoot video was, that's a video, not a photo. I suppose so. On April 21st, 1934, the London-based newspaper The Daily Mail published an image said to have been taken by a surgeon named Robert Kenneth Wilson. In the grainy black and white photo, something resembling a neck and a small head can be seen sticking out of the waters of Loch Ness. But in reality, the iconic image was a fraud perpetrated by filmmaker and big game hunter Marmaduke Wetherell. What a name. The Daily Mail had contracted Wetherell the previous year to track down the monster and later fired him for allegedly falsifying evidence of its existence with fake footprints. To get revenge, Wetherell made a small model of the monster's head and neck out of wood and glued it onto a toy submarine. He launched it into the loch and took several photographs. There we go. The respected Wilson was persuaded to send the photos to the Daily Mail. With the job done, Wetherell sank the model. So somewhere at the bottom of the loch, there does indeed lie some sort of monster. The truth about the photograph wouldn't be discovered until the 1990s. A native creature. After the initial excitement in the 1930s, the Loch Ness Monster's notoriety waned until re-emerging in the 1960s with the rise of parascience. The new researchers distanced themselves from the idea that the elusive monster was a Mesozoic species of sea serpent, arguing instead that it was a creature native to the lakes of Scotland. To back up this argument, they needed to prove the creature's existence throughout history. As there was no hard evidence of its existence prior to 1933, they looked to Scottish legends and historical chronicles. This new brand of Nessie hunters claimed that Nessie's forebears were already making a splash in the time of Saint Columba of Iona, the 6th century Irish monk who brought Christianity to Scotland. According to the monk Adamnan in his text Vita Sancti Columbae, written sometime before 704, one day Saint Columba saw a monster poised to attack a person who was swimming across the river Ness. The saint made the sign of the cross and the beast retreated. But skeptics were quick to dismiss the account, arguing that the Vita Sancti Columbae is a hagiography written a century after Columba lived, and includes tales of all sorts of incredible deeds carried out by various saints. This style of writing was popular at the time and meant to illustrate the triumph of Christianity over the paganism of the Picts, the ancient Scots. Since the 1970s, there have been various projects to scour Loch Ness in search of an animal yet unknown to science. So far, all have been unsuccessful. The tourists, however, continue to arrive in droves to watch the surface of the lake, hoping to spot some unusual movement. The Loch Ness Monster has become a focus for the desire of many to believe that a mysterious creature really could exist in the modern world. Books continue to be published on the subject, and more information than ever before can be found online. Nessie is part of an enchanted world, but also part of the Scottish identity, and more pragmatically, its tourism industry. Despite whatever really lurks in the lake, Nessie seems here to stay. Let's see this box here about screen monsters. This image here is from a British children's magazine called Look and Learn. See Nessie there. Taking advantage of the furor over the Loch Ness Monster, the film The Secret of the Loch, in which an archetypal mad scientist searches for a living dinosaur, was released in 1934. As the myth gathered pace from the 1960s onward, Nessie returned to cinema screens. My cat's playing in the window blinds. Yes, okay. In Billy Wilder's 1970 film The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, which is a great movie, Arthur Conan Doyle's famous detective discovers that the beast is nothing more than a spy submarine. And with the 2021 documentary Legends End, the Loch Ness Monster story, Nessie remains a permanent fixture in popular culture. More than 200,000 visitors a year make the pilgrimage to the Loch Ness Centre in Drumnadroshit. Here we can see the photograph. It says, the most famous image of Nessie, later proven to be fake, was published in 1934 by the Daily Mail under the headline, London Surgeon's Photo of the Monster. This talks about kelpies. Here comes my little kelpie. There's a cat. Okay. Alex Campbell identified the monster with the kelpies, horse-like, shape-shifting spirits of Gaelic mythology that could manifest as beneficent or demonic beings. Some of these forms are reminiscent of figures from Celtic folklore. And this is a relief that's located in Baden-Baden in Germany of a kelpie. Here's another box. Okay, kitty. The deep, dark waters of Scotland's Great Glen. Look at this monster. Seen from space, a line gouges diagonally through Scotland. I think you can see it on my map over here. Right here, right? No, wait. Yeah, Loch Ness. Right here. Okay, kitty cat, don't stop. Okay. Scotland, thank you, cat. Formed between 420 and 250 million years ago, the Great Glen is a vast strike-slip fault line, like my cat's tail here. Much of which is filled with lochs, which is the Gaelic word for lake. Please stop making a menace on my desk, please, kitty. With lochs, rivers, and canals. The cat's causing chaos. The southwestern section of the glen is filled with the seawater Loch Lynn. Okay. Stop. There. Trying to put away things that she's playing with. The glen then runs northeast to the freshwater Loch Lochy. Great name. And from there to the 22.5 mile long freshwater Loch Ness. At 788 feet deep, Loch Ness is the second deepest lake in Scotland. Its murky depths, darkened by the rich, peaty soil of the surrounding countryside, provide a highly suggestive setting for tales of monsters. There goes Loch Ness there. Don't bite wires. Stop. I've got a little monster over here. Don't play with the pencils. Stop. She's a menace. Let me get this kitten. Let me get this monster. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Stop. Stop being a menace. She says, I refuse. Alright. And then here's a beautiful picture of Loch Ness right here. The second deepest lake. And this here in the foreground is Urquhart Castle. Oh gosh, she's knocked over the paintbrush. Let's brush the lock real quick. The cat wants to eat it. Yes, good job, baby. Okay. Let's move on to some other monsters. Once I can. I used to work at a movie theater back in the 2000s, and this movie came out called The Water Horse, which was about the Loch Ness Monster. And we hated it because it brought all these kids. It came out at Christmas time, and the theaters were always trashed after. And, like, I don't know what it was about that movie, just brought out the worst in parents and children, apparently. All right, next we're going to talk about medieval bestiaries, fantastical animals. This will go over the history of bestiaries, and then we'll get into the actual mythical creatures inside. All right, let's put this brush away, kitty. This isn't a brushing video. Don't do it. Don't knock anything else over, please. All right, there we go. In the 2nd or 3rd century CE, an anonymous author in Alexandria, Egypt, composed a... Now my other cat is causing... This is, you know what? This is fine. This is on theme, right? Monsters. My little monsters. My little terrifying beasts. Okay. In Alexandria, Egypt, composed a text entitled Physiologist or The Naturalist. The work was soon widely copied and comprised of 48 or 49 chapters. Each was dedicated to a specific animal and included an illustration, a description of its characteristics, and a story. Part natural observation, part imaginative anecdote about its behavior. One such story, for example, features the lion. It was said that lion cubs were born lifeless and watched over by their mother until the father, king of the beasts, arrived and breathed life into them. Nope, that's the light. You can't play with that. I breathed life into them. This image gave rise to an allegorical reading steeped in Christian symbolism. The cub revived by the lion became a figure of Christ resurrected on the 3rd day. While the lion embodied noble virtues, other creatures served as warnings. The hedgehog, for instance, was believed to climb into vineyards, shake down the grapes, and then impale them on its spines to carry back to its young. According to the physiologist, this was a cautionary tale, a call for Christians to guard the vineyard of their souls. You, O Christian, refrain from busying yourself about everything, and stand watch over your spiritual vineyard from which you stock your spiritual cellar. Do not let concern for this world and the pleasure of temporal good preoccupy you, for then the prickly devil, scattering all your spiritual fruits, will pierce them with his quills and make you food for the beasts. Interesting. I like the image of the hedgehog with a bunch of grapes attached to it. Such examples illustrate the core intent of the physiologists. Use the animal world as a moral mirror that reflects human passions, vices, and virtues. Beneath the surface of each tale lay a didactic message grounded in early Christian doctrine. The stories were born from the belief that animals were created by God at the beginning of time as instruments of instruction for humankind. Interesting concept. Spread of the bestiaries. The Greek physiologist was translated into Latin and other languages during the 4th and 5th centuries. Over time, it was expanded with material drawn from influential works, including Isidore of Seville's Etymologies, Ambrose of Milan's Hexameron, and classical sources on natural history, Aristotle, Herodotus, and Pliny the Elder. The cats have run off playing now, so you're probably going to hear them rolling around in the background. There we go. Okay. By the High Middle Ages, the text had made its way through Western Europe under the Latin title Liber Bestiarum, or simply Bestiarum. Between the 12th and 14th centuries, it was translated into numerous vernacular languages. Most versions were richly illustrated with miniatures, some of exceptional delicacy and craftsmanship, depicting the full menagerie of animals described in the text. The symbols and iconography of the bestiaries were not confined to the page. The creatures in these manuscripts also migrated to stone and wood, appearing on the facades of churches and cathedrals, in the carved capitals of cloisters, and even in the interior decoration of secular and aristocratic homes. In one 13th century residence in the French city of Metz, the ceilings of 2 rooms were adorned with a complete bestiary, an ensemble that survives today in the local museum. A motley menagerie. Although not a zoological treatise in the modern sense, the bestiary captured the sum of medieval knowledge about the animal world. Many of the animals it described were part of everyday life. The crucial domestic role symbolized by horses and dogs earned them long entries, often highlighting their loyalty and intelligence. One tale recalls how the horses of Charlemagne and Gaius Caesar accepted no rider but their masters. Another tells of King Lysimachus of Thrace's dog, who leaped into his master's funeral pyre, refusing to be parted even in death. Bestiaries also featured animals considered exotic by European readers, such as lions, elephants, apes, and ostriches, native to Africa and Asia. Artists rarely saw these creatures firsthand, so they relied on written descriptions or copied earlier drawings. Alongside the familiar and the exotic were imaginary beasts said to inhabit distant lands. Some drew authority from ancient sources or biblical texts. The antlion, for instance, was believed to be born of a lion and an ant, a confusion that may have arisen from a mistranslation of a passage from the biblical book of Job. The New International Version translates this passage as, "The lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered." Here comes a loud car. Let's say good evening to this loud car driving by very slowly. What is happening? Why are you going so slowly past my house? Just keep going. Thank you. Goodbye, loud truck. Goodbye, loud truck. Okay, there it goes. Goodbye. Okay. In the Septuagint, the 3rd to 2nd century BCE Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, the Hebrew word for lion, leish, is rendered as myrmelkoion, antlion. The mistake was possibly caused by either a poor understanding of Hebrew or a transcription error. Still, such a creature now existed in the imagination of scholars. According to the physiologists, it had the face or foreparts of a lion and the hinder parts of an ant. I can't even imagine a lion ant. That's so strange. In older translations of the Bible, the word unicorn also appears, such as in this passage from the King James Version of Psalm 22:21. "Save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of the unicorn." The decision of the translators to render the Hebrew word re'em as unicorn could have been influenced by scholars' knowledge of the mythical animal from Indian sources. Modern Bible translations, such as the New International Version, render re'em as wild ox. Yeah, I wonder if that was just a choice for the time that people would all know what unicorns are, I wonder. Other fantastical beings came from classical tradition. Sirens, hybrids of women and bird or fish, and the phoenix, a bird that immolated itself and rose from its ashes on the third day, echoed themes of renewal and divine mystery. From a modern perspective, it is easy to distinguish fact from fable, but for medieval readers, such distinctions may not have mattered. Their knowledge of distant animals came from texts, not observation, and bestiaries were never intended as scientific manuals. Real or imagined, these creatures represented God's creative power and were part of a sacred natural order designed to teach spiritual truths. So let's look at these pictures first before we get to the animals, or the mythical animals. So this is a 13th century Romanesque doorway in Tyrol Castle in northern Italy. And it has lots of animals along the side here, as long as a depiction of crucifixion up here. Let's see what it says. Among the mythical beasts is a lion, which sometimes represents Jesus after the resurrection. Looks like a little dragon right here, and a phoenix. And this beast is eating a dude. It's jumping on his head. This is from the Ashmole Bestiary. And it's supposed to depict God giving life to the animals. You can see an elephant there, rabbit, cat, squirrel, lion, dog, sheep. That's a bull, deer, I guess like an antelope, and a horsey. All the animals. This is from a 13th century manuscript depicting a pelican, a symbol of selflessness. It's a mother feeding its young from its own blood. Okay, that definitely does not happen, but they thought it did back then. And then this is a page about a panther from the Baron Physiologist. An animal associated with Christ is all it says. Very cool. All right, let's get to the spooky creatures here. Starting with fantastical birds. Among the most extraordinary creatures in the bestiaries were bird-like beings imbued with miraculous qualities, symbols of virtue, redemption, or peril. Their colorful feathers often hid deeply moral messages. Up here we can see a phoenix. I feel like everyone knows what a phoenix is. Rising from the ashes there. But this is a caladrius right here. Let's read about the caladrius. Entirely white and said to reside in royal palaces, the caladrius possessed a unique gift. According to the bestiaries, when faced with a sick person, it could choose to either look at them, healing them by absorbing their illness, or turn away, condemning them to death. If it accepted the burden of the disease, the caladrius would fly toward the sun, where the heat of its ascent would purify both itself and the illness. This act of self-sacrifice cast the bird as a Christ-like figure, turning away from the unrepentant, but saving the repentant, ascending to the heavens after restoring life. And then down here's a basilisk, which I feel like we all think from Harry Potter is a big snake creature, but look, it's a bird. Basilisk. Feared as the king of serpents, the basilisk was said to be born from a peculiar and ominous origin, an egg laid by a rooster and hatched by a toad. Its appearance varied. It was sometimes described as a crested serpent, sometimes as a rooster with a snake's tail and a crown-like crest, symbolizing its dominion, its breath and gaze. Oh, sorry, that's a period, not a comma. Its dominion. The cats are outside playing with their toys. Okay. Its breath and gaze are considered deadly unless deflected by a mirror. which returned the venom upon the beast itself. The basilisk was often said to represent the devil being crushed by Christ. Looks like this person looked at the basilisk. And this little weasel is also in its case. And here's a griffin. It's eating a person. Let's see. It says the terrifying griffin, which has the body of a lion and wings and head of an eagle, were said to capture humans. Fabulous equids. To the medieval imagination, the distant lands of the East teemed with strange and marvelous creatures. Among them were the Lucrota and the Bonacon, hybrids so bizarre that they blurred the line between animal and myth. Here's the Lucrota. It says, make sure you can see them. There we go. Lucrota, said to originate in India. The Lucrota was described as one of the fastest beasts alive. It was as large as a donkey, with the head of a horse, the chest and legs of a lion, the hind quarters of a deer, and cloven hooves. I feel like there's so many pieces of lions. Its mouth stretched from ear to ear, and instead of teeth, it had a single continuous bone on each jaw. Strange. Most curious of all, it could mimic human speech. Some sources suggested it was born from the union of a lioness and a hyena. Unlike other beasts in the bestiaries, the Lucrota story rarely carried a moral, serving more as a marvel than a lesson. And over here is the Bonacon. This one's unusual. This creature was said to live in Asia, and it had the head and body of a bull, a horse's mane, and curled horns that were useless for defense. Nature had granted it a more unconventional weapon. When threatened, it would flee while expelling scalding, foul-smelling dung that scorched everything it touched over a wide area. Though often presented without allegory, some interpretations saw the Bonacon as a symbol of divine providence, reminding readers that God grants believers unusual means of protecting their faith. So my sister read this article, because I figured she'd like the topic, and she thought that maybe they were confusing a hippo, because hippos also do helicopter poos with their tail. But I don't know, that's an unusual one. The dangerous poos. Let's see here. It says, it's believed only a virgin could catch a unicorn. Having caught the creature, the girl lets the hunters kill it. Aw, betrayal from the unicorn. For the unicorn there. Next we have dragons and reptiles. Snakes and dragons became fixed in the Christian collective imagination as incarnations of evil and the devil. The fantastical creatures on these pages bring together the qualities of both reptiles. Here comes my other cat. And there he goes. Good boy, Jet. Alright, let's see. An asp. That is not an asp. Why is its tail in its ear? Goodness, it has wings. And breathing fire. And this is just a regular dragon down here. It says, recoils in fear of the Paradoxion, a mythical Indian tree that shelters doves. Interesting. Do you think that's funny, Jet? You're a good boy. And then over here we have a typical representation of a dragon as a winged creature spewing fire from a 13th century bestiary. It's two little legs. Interesting. I guess all these other dragons have 2 legs too. I always think of them as 4-legged, right? Here's the Amphisbaena. I hope that's how you say that. I don't know. Amphisbaena. Most medieval scholars agreed that this snake-like creature had 2 heads. It It was also said that the Amphisbaena's eyes shone like lightning, and that among all snakes it is the only one that tolerates the cold. In his etymologies, the 7th century author Isidore of Seville wrote, "The Amphisbaena has 2 heads, one in the proper place and one on the tail, and it advances with both heads leading, its body trailing in a loop. This alone of the snakes trusts itself to the cold, and comes out first of all the serpents. Its eyes glow like lamps." Yeah, it's right in the crease of the magazine, but you can see the head at the end of the tail there. And he's biting the tail there. And he's got wings. And 2 little legs. And this is another Amphisbaena. It says, oh, I can see there it is biting its tail with the head there. I hope you can see. It's a little tiny picture. And this is the last page, I believe. Yes. Half animal, half human. The manticore had a human face and a lion's body, and 8 people. Mermaids and onocentaurs, with the head and torso of a human and the lower body and legs of a donkey, also appeared among the creatures in medieval bestiaries. Before we get to the manticore, let's look at these merpeople down here. So you can see a mermaid drags a man into the sea right here. And then here's like a half man, half horse leaping by. I guess that's a centaur, right? Half man, half horse, centaur. But then down here we see half man, half human. Oh, an onocentaur. But that's just, anyway. Yeah, okay. I don't understand the difference between a centaur and an onocentaur. Maybe it's the same thing. Let's see. Yeah, this is wild. So this looks like some kind of rodent creature, maybe like a hedgehog, but it's got human legs, but a really long rat tail. And then this has a face of a man and arms and I guess feet, but then it has a big old tail. What is this supposed to be? It's so wild. That's weird looking. But then here's the manticore. The manticore. Many bestiaries dedicate a section to a terrifying human-eating animal, the manticore. With a man's head, lion's body, and scorpion tail, the sphinx-like creature was familiar to medieval scholars from the writings of several classical authors, including Aristotle and Pliny the Elder. According to the 13th century Rochester bestiary, produced in England, the manticore's hissing voice was similar to the sound of flutes and bagpipes. Of Persian origin, this mythical creature was likely inspired by tigers from India. So yeah, the book is definitely like this, right? You can see the crease and it folds like that. So it's like a full page, but you got to turn it this way to see the image. So the crease of this book is right there. But you can see his little man head with big old teeth, his lion body, and then this spiky tail right here. Pretty neat. All right. So that is it for the monsters of tonight, including the cats. I don't know where they've run off to. They keep running in and out. I should go feed them breakfast. That will chill them out. Get them some wet food. They'll calm down. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my channel members who picked these articles. And if you want to pick future articles, again, now's the time. Just posted a video where you can comment with which article you want to request. So go ahead and click the join button. It's only 99 cents a month. It's the cheapest I can make it, just to make sure that it's as affordable as it can possibly be for everyone, depending where you are in the world. Have a very happy Halloween coming up, my favorite holiday. And I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good